Hi, my name's Anna. I'm a final year student at Manchester Metropolitan University. I study fashion design and technology and I specialise in menswear design. I basically looked at traditional menswear standards within the office. It's all about this new consumer that doesn't want to wear a suit to work and shouldn't have to because that doesn't always mean that you're smart. I think that sustainability and technology really work hand in hand. Working out the print scales before, not having to print everything off, using a lay plan and an accurate lay plan to work out how much wastage there is instead of just cutting the fabric. And doing things like that really does help the design process and a manufacturing process.
For this final major project, it's all about objectifying the perfect man. It started off with the base research of, looking into what is that perfect man. So it was looking at Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, the Adonis complex, maybe even people who use body modifications to make themselves perfect. And from that research, it created this idea of the creation of my own perfect man. So it was really important to of course have the correct fit because everything's so close to the body. There's very little darts. Everything is very clean in terms of silhouettes, and so it was a lot of trial and error making sure that the patterns were correct. As the garments are collated together and become this cohesive collection, each individual garment has its own small story that encompasses the whole concept.
My collection is inspired by the life of my dad. He grew up in Jamaica and then moved to Britain after joining the British RAF as a teenager. In 2009, he sadly lost a battle to cancer, so for the past decade, I've tried to maintain my connection with him using imagery and reliving old memories. His style in all points of his life are iconic to me. He used to wear fine dapper suits when he was young, and then he used to wear kick flare trousers and tight knit jumpers until finally wearing all camo fits, which were very loose and very laid back. For fabrication, I looked at the extreme contrasting weather between Jamaica and Britain, which inspired me to combine light airy fabrics with heavy and showerproof fabrics in the same outfits. One of the key details throughout the collection is the reverse fan stitch, which was inspired by an afro comb, which was dug up during the excavation of a club in Moss Side called the Reno. This was around in the 70s and it was for black and mixed race people, as it was still a time where people of colour were not accepted in a lot of places. I've ended up with a collection which is very layered, it's got a bit of tailoring in, it's quite fun, the colour palette's quite muted but it's got pops of colour, and I feel like this really represents myself and my dad.
When collaborating with DHB, originally I looked at futuristic style, make and design of garments and objects that are already in the fashion industry. From this, I then started to analyse how these characteristics can be adapted into cycling through body shape, movement and climate.
My collection, I don't want to do this anymore, but someone has to. It's loosely based on the book Please Kill Me by Gillian McCain and Legs McNeil. The book gives an oral retelling of the history of POG. Through the copious amounts of retelling, the stories in the book, retold by various icons within the punk scene, become distorted through the he say, she say. Within my collection, I want to bring this distortion to the actual clothes themselves.
Inspiration came heavily from my heritage and what I see as the loves of my life. Inspired by my granddad in his heavy knitted jumpers and the foggy settings of his West Yorkshire home with my beloved family. Collaged with my dad's love for Queen and the flamboyance of Freddie Mercury. Throughout my collection I have focused on oversized tailoring and adapting different fabric textures to each garment. I started with encasing fabric and bonding it together, creating silhouettes and features onto the garment through the fabric. I collaborated with a student from Manchester School of Art to provide knitted garments within my collection. The designs were joint ideas providing laid aspects. I originally specialised in menswear, but within this collection I designed and pattern cut with no gender assigned, the silhouette, texture and colour being the main attraction. The majority of the fabric used was donated industrial surplus, considering environmental and social impacts throughout my design process and collection.
I think knowing and understanding the rules of tailoring, or at least having a good idea of them, is key when it comes to distorting shape and creating interesting tailored silhouettes. For this project, I attempted to translate Francis Bacon's painting processes into the processes used by bespoke tailors to create an experimental piece of clothing. For example, he painted on an easel, so I drafted a traditional jacket on a wall, and then after, in thick paint, traced over it freely with added volume. And when the jacket didn't fit, I slashed it and made it fit, which is something Bacon did to his paintings when things didn't go well. Working like Francis Bacon, who painted instinctively, is kind of make or break. It can destroy your work, or it can make it 1,000 times more interesting.
The body will achieve what the mind believes, therefore my concept is connecting two beautiful processes of mental and physical strength through the world of boxing and LGBTQA community. Both have been beaten, both knocked down. This collection is about their fight and how they champion their current worlds.
Hi, I'm Mia and I study sportswear design at Manchester Metropolitan. For my final project, I wanted to create a thought-provoking piece that questioned sustainability and the future of our planet. Using information I found at the London Design Museum with an exhibition entitled Moving to Mars, I looked into the potential of a new life on a different planet, and I designed my collection around this. If humanity was to inhabit a new planet, sustainability would be a key issue. I wanted to make my collection futuristic, but incorporating everything that I see wrong with the fashion industry at the moment. The main thing being the sustainability aspect. This is what brought Clo3D into my work. This software allows you to work both 2D and 3D, amending patterns and checking fit on a virtual avatar. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, Clo became ever more important within my work as I was removed from studio atmosphere and was left making all of my design decisions on a screen. I was able to create part of my final collection without any access to machinery and just for using my laptop. Using Clo3D, I could even incorporate fabric details such as mesh and stretch materials into my lineup, showing exactly how they would fit in a real life scenario, down to even cover stitch detailing on all the seams. With Clo3D being such a new software, I think it is extremely important that students are taught this so that when I go into industry I'm able to implement a new and more sustainable way of working.
Hi, I'm Joseph Duffill. I do Womenswear design at Manchester Fashion Institute.
The concept for my F&P is based around 1920s and 30s trims, paired back with a utilitarian approach. I paired both utility and the whimsical aesthetic together to hopefully solidate the marriage between both strength and beauty in the modern world.
The garments in this collection's main focus is the textile surface, in which represents an older woman's ageing body. a 3D effect was created in the fabric to imitate wrinkles. All bonding is directed vertically to follow the human body's natural skin grain. The colour of the silk velvet has a luxurious shine when the light hits, which is the reason I decided to make a coordinated full set. The different body movements show the colour of the velvet and the laser etching hitting the light in different ways and creating a subtle yet powerful statement through the contrast.
My collection is inspired by artist John Chamberlain, whose sculptures were created by crushing discarded car parts into 3D shapes. My work focuses on technical pattern cutting, so echoing John Chamberlain's sculptures, I've crushed and sculpted garments and manipulated the form of the body through cut to show that fashion can be viewed as sculptures in a living form. I've also incorporated drape points onto patterns to allow experimentation with drape and design. The garments were intentionally designed to last. It was really important for me to create luxury and high quality garments that are classic yet creatively cut, and that were made with quality fabrics and high-end finishing, which all improve the longevity of the garments.
I called my final collection Future Mythologies, and it explores the evolution of life after crisis through fashion and through innovation. In this project, I wanted to create a future scenario where the Earth's environment is devastated by nuclear interference and climate change, and I've considered how new life might actually mutate and evolve in these futuristic atmospheric conditions. This influenced me to develop really quite alien silhouettes, merging animal features together to create these new hybrids. I consider it to be so important to incorporate sustainable practices into my work. I saw how 3D printing had influenced more sustainable manufacture in other industries, and this made me begin to think how 3D print could be used to innovate production in the embellishment industry too. I began to experiment using 3D printing and created a way of emulating the glossy finish of sequins, but in a more sustainable way. One of the benefits of 3D printing is that it's an additive way of manufacturing, which means that embellishing fabrics using the technology is zero waste as only the material needed is used. The sequins have been 3D printed using recycled PLA, which is a bioplastic and a more eco-friendly alternative to PET plastic, which is currently used to make most sequins.
My final collection is a therapeutic clothing range aimed at reducing anxiety, stress and depression. My collection name Panacea comes from the Greek goddess of universal healing and remedy.
My collection is inspired by Halima sculptures, elements of sportswear, and African print. I mainly focused on Halima Castle's collection called Virtues of Unity, which features sculptures with different sized holes. My aim for this collection was to combine my love of womenswear and sportswear, embracing freedom from convention and rules with a modern take on classic silhouettes. Layering was an important aspect in the collection, from layered sleeves to layered trousers and to combining different garments together such as the Pafa trench coat. Some of Halima Castle's work features line detail inspired by African surface prints, so I decided to develop my own print. Half of the color palette in the collection is inspired by the 1980s-90s tracksuits, which was the bright turquoise and teal. The other half of the color palette, the browns and yellow in the collection, was inspired by colors from African prints.
My final collection concept took inspiration from the 1930s original power shoulder to the 1980s power dressing. The pink palette and fabric selection is the conclusion of my research and development. It nods to the perception people have on the colour pink and the colour representation in today's society. Asymmetry and strong silhouettes showcase the complex yet quiet tailoring that are intended to complement an existing sophisticated wardrobe. The final outerwear garments I chose to make were each powerful, with no two sides being the same and unique in their own way. If you feel power within, then power is projected.
As a part of overall silhouette, this concept, bad and lazy, are the starting point to develop my silhouette. I inspired by the words bad, comfort, relaxed, and lazy. The coat shapes reflected that mood, like the puff and ruffles, also wrap over all of the body, made out of the quilted fabric. The suit and dress reflect the daily dress code. My virtual research on fabric inspiration, they can reflect how people feel comfort when they really chill on the bed. So fabric like silk and quilted are the best choice for this collection.